So I'm really happy to have with us leaders who just don't talk. They're real implementers, and they're devoted towards that end. And I'm going to start with Alex. Alex Katon, you look worried.
Happy to be here.
Okay. Alex is Chief Executive of Infraco Africa, which has been around for a while as a PIDGE initiative.
Correct.
Right? So a real trailblazer on this front. And Alex, my question for you is, what business environment improvements, challenges, and solutions are you seeing for developers in Africa? And what industry developments would aid, in your mind, developers' growth and appetite to take more early-stage project risk? Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Barbara. Hi, I'm Alex Katon. As Barbara said, I'm the Exec Director, in fact, of Infraco Africa. Infraco Africa is a facility of the PIDGE. It's been around about 15 years. And the question I was posed today, I think the first part anyway, was to talk about what changes we're seeing in the market environment in Africa. Infraco Africa, if you like, only operates in the space that starts off with a project concept, getting that project ready to build. So just a short introduction on that. So we do that by providing risk capital to projects, and we provide expertise. So we're a small team, we hire teams of developers, and we fund those developers to develop projects in the 40 middle countries of Africa, as I call them. So that's Infraco's mandate. We were set up in about 2004. It's one of the first facilities of the PIDGE, which is the Private Infrastructure Development Group. It's a large umbrella organization funded mostly by European governments. So our equity investment, we are a UK limited company. Our equity funding comes from mostly the British, but also the Swiss, the Austrian, and the Dutch governments. So we're a government-funded entity, but we're set up as a limited company with a small board of directors funding entrepreneurial development teams, who are generally the people starting infrastructure development projects in most of the markets we work in. So that's what Infraco does, and what's the business environment like? So I'm quite optimistic. In the last 4 years, we've signed 10 new projects, which in the scheme of things, in the previous 4 years, we signed 2. So we've seen a big acceleration. So that's 10 projects in 4 years in 8 different mid-African countries. So that ranges from Malawi, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Mozambique. Across in West Africa, we've done one in Nigeria recently. They're mostly in renewable energy. So what are we seeing in the market? We're seeing a lot of renewable energy deals. I think we got 4 in the hydro sector, 4 solar deals, one geothermal project, and then 1 marine transport project, just to show we do some other infrastructure. So infrastructure opportunities in the market we see as being very, very active. Okay, then we get onto the slightly less happy question of how about challenges? What are you seeing? What's stopping your projects? So I look at on a micro scale, what happened to our 10 projects in the last 4 years? So in one country, we had a civil war within a month of signing the agreement, South Sudan. In another country, we signed a geothermal deal to commit $15 million out of the first $100 million to develop a geothermal site, which was up to a 500 megawatt geothermal facility, a massive investment into Ethiopia. The state of emergency happened. That deal is now a year late. The South Sudan deal has been on hold for 3 years. So these are challenges. I'm giving you the bad news. I want to be open. The other projects we're working on, Malawi. We've been working on a solar project there on a negotiated basis for two years. They've decided to go for a tender. It's another 6 months late. You can't blame people for wanting a tender, but it is another big delay to getting power into Malawi. So there's some of the key challenges. I would define it sort of listed. I was getting a bit gloomy this morning and say it's a civil war. There's also elections. We got 2 hydro projects running in Zambia. The elections have put them back about a year. So it's wars, elections. You've got to mention corruption in any discussion about early stage infrastructure projects. So corruption in some countries is a big issue. It's probably our biggest single business risk. I'll talk about that a bit in a minute. So that's my list of challenges. In terms of, the last challenge I probably should mention is there are not enough people doing what we do, in my opinion. When my shareholder says, 10 deals, Alex, aren't you doing well? In the 4 years you've been there, isn't Infraco doing well? And I'm slightly unpopular because I think it's pathetic what we've done. We are a drop in the ocean of what's required. I don't mean that to be dramatic. We're a tiny contribution. We've committed $45 million. It should have been $450 million to early stage project development. I'm delighted Africa 50 is up and running. I'm delighted Climate One is up and running. So some of the solutions out there, there's grant funding, and that's helping an awful lot. May sound a bit trite, but people like USTDA and Power Africa have really stepped up in the last couple of years. We see a big market improvement in what they're doing. Most of our projects are coming with some grant funding attached now. EU AITF is out there, DBSA is out there, the African Legal Support Facility is out there, and government-side support and government funding is a really key part to the solution. OPIC's funding, and then there's the off-grid stuff, electrify, beyond the grid. A lot of these projects we're seeing and we're signing up are coming with grant funding, which is allowing them to be the first, to get a tariff that's bankable. The other thing I think we're seeing in terms of solutions is smaller deals. We waited 10 years to sign SenPower in Ghana, a 350 megawatt deal. It took us 10 years to develop it. The deal we've just done in Tanzania, it was commissioned in a week. So it's an off-grid solar project in a box, containerized PV rental in Tanzania. So we've signed up to 30 of those in Tanzania. And it's great to see the lights go on in somewhere that never had lights, and it only takes a week to deploy. So the contrast of the smaller deals being equity financed, these are the solutions I think we're seeing. So I'm probably overrunning a little bit, but I could talk all day on this. Industry developments, I think there's some positive stuff going on. People are getting organized. Things like this event, third year running, is getting people coordinated. Big entities like the AFC, big African initiatives, they've set up a feeder, an association for project developers in Africa. Now, we put some money into that because we think it's worthwhile coordinating the industry standard. So what is a standard success fee? What's a standard joint development agreement? So when you go to talk to government, you've got someone behind you saying, actually, you're not being robbed here. This is okay. This is a standard way of developing a project. So developing real standards. On the bribery side, we've signed up. We just got certified and audited quite painfully for BS 10500, which is the UK's anti-bribery certification. It just gives you standards and processes to show you're addressing some of your biggest risks, and there are standards out there how to do these things. The International Hydropower Developers Association is another one. I think that's the right title, but they give you a badge, you develop a hydro project in the right way, and you get basically your IFC standard application is approved and audited. And I think the other networks I mentioned at the beginning, Power Africa, and some of the other good initiatives in the IFC, like scaling solar. These industry developments, the increase, the move towards bids, are also improving the speed of delivery. The more projects are getting done. So I just, in summary, I'm positive, but we just need so much more money and so many more people. People and money make these projects happen. And that would be my last kind of summary line is, if you're out there and you're a funder wondering what to put your money into, please put it into early stage development.
Oh, that was brilliant.
Thank you.
But those themes we had yesterday too, and a lot of people don't realize that on average, project development costs run 5 to 12% of your total project cost. So this whole point, we really should push more on how we're going to get more funding and make it more accessible. And of course, some comments were made earlier, Roberto, in your panel on that, because you made the point, the whole structuring of project preparation facilities. So
doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.